They called him Harold Whitaker, but only on official forms or when someone was trying to sell him something. Most folks in the town of Millridge, Tennessee just called him Mr. Whit, or simply, the man with the gray hat. Because he wore the same dusty fedora every single day since 1973, the year his father died and left him the family feed store that sat on the corner of Main and Mulberry, a red brick relic with creaky floors, pickle jars by the register, and a cat named Winston who never left the seed bins. Harold was born in 1946, in a house with no plumbing and too much silence, raised by a mother who read the Bible every morning and a father who believed emotion was a form of weakness, a man who never once told him, "I'm proud of you," even after Harold graduated third in his class and was the only one in his family to finish high school. He never went to college, not because he couldn't, but because the store needed hands, and his mother needed help, and duty, as Harold saw it, didn't bend for dreams. He worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, rain or shine, smile or no smile, selling feed, wire, seed, and coffee to men who came more for the conversation than the product. He never married, though he once came close. Her name was Jenny Lynn and she played guitar at the Methodist Church, wrote poems in the margins of old magazines, and called him Harry, like she was trying to make him new again. They spent one summer walking the ridge behind the high school, eating peaches from a paper bag and talking about what-ifs, but when her father got sick and she left town, Harold never wrote, never called. Just buried himself deeper in the store and told himself it was better that way. The years rolled on. His mother passed, then his dog, then his neighbor Ed who used to bring him soup on Christmas Eve, and soon the calendar stopped feeling like time and more like a checklist of who was gone. He kept the store going even as big box chains moved in, even when the street lost its foot traffic and the high school kids stopped buying candy from his front shelf. He still swept the porch each morning, put out the same open sign, played the same radio station, and told himself that routine was a kind of prayer, a way to say, "I'm still here," without having to shout. Every Sunday, he sat on his porch with a thermos of black coffee, staring at the road like he was waiting for someone to come back who never would, and though neighbors waved, few ever stopped to talk. Not because they didn't like him, but because he always seemed like a man halfway somewhere else, like conversation was a door he kept locked just in case the past tried to sneak back in. By the time he turned 70, his hands were more arthritis than bone. But he still opened the store, still mended old tools for free, still remembered the birthdays of customers who hadn't shopped there in years. In 2021, after a heavy storm, a city inspector came by and told him the building was no longer up to code. The roof sagged, the wiring was ancient, and the foundation had shifted just enough to call it unsafe. Harold nodded, thanked the man, and 2 days later, locked the front door for the last time, slipping the key into his pocket like it was a wedding ring he never wore. He spent the next week sorting through 50 years of other people's stories. Receipts, postcards, forgotten photos, a shoebox full of candy wrappers someone's kid once left behind, and packed them into labeled boxes he never mailed. No one knew he was sick, not even his cousin, who lived 2 towns over and only called at Christmas. It was his mail carrier who noticed first, the letters piling up, the porch unswept, and called it in. They found him in his recliner, fully dressed, hat on his chest, TV off, curtains open, as if he'd been waiting for light to come through one last time. There was no funeral, just a note he left behind. "I tried to live a simple life. I hope that was enough." And the town, bless them, did what they could. Someone painted a mural of the store, someone else put a plaque by the bench he used to sit on, and the Methodist Church rang their bell at noon on the first Sunday of spring in his honor. And maybe, just maybe, that sound reached somewhere deeper, to the road where Jenny Lynn still played her guitar for no one in particular, or to the hills where his father once split wood and said nothing at all, or even just to the sky, where lives like Harold's, quiet, kind, uneventful, hang not like stars, but like the soft glow that comes right before morning, unnoticed, but never unnecessary. After Harold passed, the town moved quietly around the absence he left behind, the way grass grows over an old trail, slow, soft, and without asking permission. The feed store remained locked for months, gathering dust behind the glass like an unopened time capsule, until the bank reclaimed it, painted over the old lettering, and eventually sold it to a boutique that sold lavender candles and inspirational mugs. But the owner, a young woman named Carla who used to buy jelly beans from Harold when she was a child, kept a shelf untouched in the back with an old wrench, a receipt from 1989, and a photo of Harold feeding Winston, a silent memorial tucked between scented soaps. People said they missed him, but mostly in passing. He was a good man, real quiet type, always wore that damn hat. And then they'd move on to the next topic, as towns do. But memories have their own gravity, and in the weeks that followed, small things kept surfacing. Someone found an envelope of old repair invoices with "no charge" written in the margins. Another discovered a dusty box of birthday cards in his attic addressed to people who never got them, and the librarian, Mrs. Helms, realized that every month for 15 years Harold had anonymously donated a children's book in memory of Jenny Lynn, even though no one ever saw him do it. It turned out he'd been quietly paying for a neighbor's insulin prescriptions, leaving apples on the desk of a school janitor who lost his wife, and writing letters to deployed soldiers using only initials and stories of Millridge to keep their spirits up, all unsigned, all without recognition. The town newspaper finally printed a story about him, titled, "The Man in the Gray Hat," with a grainy photo of Harold smiling faintly beside a shelf of seed packets, and the caption read, "A quiet life, lived well." In time, the house was emptied, the porch swing taken down, and the garden overgrown, but someone, no one knows who, planted daffodils along the walkway, just like the ones Grace used to sell by the handful at the spring fair. Every April, they bloom, stubborn and golden, even now. And though Harold Whitaker was never famous, never rich, and never loud, his story lingers in 1,000 invisible ways. In the pages of a donated book, in the small repairs that never broke again, in the routines of cats who still wait at 5 p.m. by back doors, expecting kindness, and maybe, in the grand reckoning of lives and legacies, that's enough. To be the soft echo in someone's memory, the warm thought on a cold night, the reason someone still believes quiet people might just carry the loudest love.